Welcome to SyrupDrop. I'm Jessica Vomiero, and this is my colleague, Rose Bahar.
Hey, queens and kings.
And Canadian gamers got some exciting news this week.
That's right, the Nintendo Switch, the hotly anticipated console hybrid with a handheld device, is coming to Toronto on January 29th, and it's going to be open to the public. And you're going to want to get there early because you will be lining up.
This is taking place at an undisclosed location, and Toronto is actually the second location of several that is going to get to try out the Nintendo Switch.
That's right. We're special for once. We're the first after the launch in New York, which happened earlier this past month. And guess what? It's pretty exciting because nobody has ever really done a console hybrid tablet thing like this before. So basically, you're able to play at home on your TV, take the device out of the console, and then just go on subway with it, go to the cottage with it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. The device is actually going to be available for Canadians to purchase on March 3rd for approximately $400 Canadian, though I don't really know how you're going to get one because it has been sold out everywhere since the pre-orders opened up last week.
That's right, but it is exciting. Gimmick, not gimmick, we will only know once it launches.
Speaking of international companies dealing with Canadians, the federal government is considering instituting a Netflix tax. And now, while this doesn't mean a tax on Netflix specifically, it means a tax on all international streaming companies operating in Canada.
That's right, and it's a very interesting question of, this is a company that is not Canadian, and because they don't have any property offices in Canada, they don't technically have to pay GST, and they also don't have to contribute to the Canadian Media Fund. So a lot of players in the Canadian media scene are not happy about that, to say the least.
Absolutely, especially because Canadian-based streaming services like Crave TV and the now debunked Show Me did have to pay into the Canadian Media Fund and contribute to GST.
That's right. So as much as I love Netflix, I would say, give me some sales tax, whatever. I'll still pay for it. I love my Netflix. But I would like to see some contribution to Canada,
definitely.
to be honest.
On the other hand, though, this kind of opens up the argument. Do we want to start taxing every internet service that comes along? Because eventually, companies are going to be operating all around the world that have one base location, and people all around the world are going to have to pay tax on that device or that product.
This is true, and the other side of the coin is we could always take away some of those fees from the Canadian companies that have to pay into the fund or have to pay sales taxes, which might help the Canadian companies produce more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty tricky argument, but something else happened this week. My colleague, Rose Bahar, actually developed a huge feature this past week on Freedom Mobile's new LTE network in Toronto. Please share with us how you came up with your study.
Well, everybody is very excited about the new LTE network from Freedom Mobile because it uses this sort of obscure new band 66 using the AWS-3 spectrum. So it is the first time that Freedom, used to be Wind, has now been able to offer LTE speeds. And because it's a very new band, they're saying, this is traffic free, guys. This is exciting. So I went around Toronto and I tested the speeds against Bell, Rogers, and Telus using the same device, the LG V20, which does support AWS-3. And I found some interesting results. Freedom did pretty well. It had an average of about 45 megabits per second download speed, 29 megabits per second upload speed, and a 19 millisecond latency. Basically, that all boils down to being that that is a fairly good average speed across all my sample tests. It is not as good as Telus and Bell. Those guys have a lot of infrastructure, but Rogers actually managed to fall lower than Freedom.
Really? I'm sure they're not happy to hear that.
I'm sure they're not either, but another thing to consider is there's not many people on this network yet. It is still very traffic free.
For sure.
So we'll see how it operates in the future. But for now, that is a pretty good speed, and we're going to be doing more tests shortly in Vancouver.
Well, stay tuned for that. And as of right now, thank you so much for watching this episode of SyrupDrop. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can.
Smash that like button!
Don't forget to tune in next week. And we don't know where it's going to take place. Maybe we should do that again, because that sounded kind of silly. I made a mistake. Yeah.